the Hungarian GDP comes from our pockets as taxpayers all over Western Europe. And so the fact that they didn't show any solidarity, either with the Greeks or with the Italians who accepted, it had to accept refugees, caused a lot of protests, and it might have also concrete consequences at the negotiation of the future budget of the European Union. And so Viktor Orban, who was at that time 26, is even now, after 3 whopping victories, only 54. His only passion is politics, soccer, and money, as someone wrote who knew him already 29 years ago, and I think this is the right diagnosis. It is not a dictatorship, he is not a dictator, he is a totally cynical politician. Most politicians are cynical, but playing on Orwell, one could say some are more cynical than the others. And I think he showed in his career, and also his friends and people. There is also an additional thing to it. There was a campaign to close the Central European University in Vienna. This is an absolutely fantastic university. It was, sorry?
In Budapest.
In Budapest. It was founded by George Soros, Hungarian-born American millionaire, who doesn't spend the money he earned through speculation on soccer teams or ballerinas, but tries to support and finance NGOs all over the world, which means that in all the countries where there is a chance of a dictatorship, or there is a dictatorship threatened by popular revolt, always these institutes and the NGOs are the #1 targets. And this university became a target because it has only 400 Hungarian students, but thousands from all over the world, the best brains and people, postgraduates, and they passed legislation which would practically finish the activity of this university. There was an incredible demonstration in Hungary, in Budapest, almost 80,000, mainly young people, but unfortunately demonstrations have no effect, no impact, if you have no organization. So they demonstrated, but then nothing happened. And so the university is endangered, and now in April 8th, there will be elections. It's a fantastic campaign going on already since last year. The #1 enemy is now George Soros, the man who set up this university, because he financed also the NGOs. Not he alone, but partly financed the NGOs. And in Hungary, unfortunately, the opposition is weak, partly corrupt, partly discredited, partly fighting each other, and the NGOs, the very courageous people who help refugees, who come up against all kinds of juggling with the jobs, who if you are independent, perhaps you lose your job or you won't be promoted, they are under tremendous pressure. And now they passed also a law which says that if you are working for an institute or for an NGO, the NGO must make it clear that he is financed by foreign funds, lobbying, a dangerous, an enemy of the people. And this is a very great danger. There are other factors too in Hungary. As I mentioned, Orban gave a speech in which he attacked the Soviet Union and demanded the evacuation of the Russian groups. Today, Hungary is the closest allies, I mean not Hungary as such, but the government of Vladimir Putin. He has been there for 3 times in the last 2 years, probably coming very soon again to visit Hungary. And this shows that 2 cynics two cynical operators understand each other, and it is, of course, a potential threat to the European Union. Why? Because all these four countries which form the so-called Visegrad group, most journalists who mention it have no idea what is it. I shall reveal it to you, this secret. Visegrad is a burg, a fortress near Budapest. We as children and school boys always had to go there, and once a year or twice. That was in the 13th, 14th century, when Hungary was a great power, the residence of the kings. And there in the 14th century, Hungarian, a Czech, a Bohemian, and the Polish and the German prince and kings met. In 1989, some clever man in Hungary invented that should be called our cooperation the Visegrad Group. And so Hungary, Slovakia, in those days Czechoslovakia, Poland became the Visegrad Group. Now today that's Hungary, Poland, Czech Republic, and Slovakia. The common feature is, though they very often fought each other, like the Hungarians who have lost people and territory, and the Slovaks who are afraid of losing the territories they won through the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. They are collective, they are together, cohesive in the fear of foreigners, particularly poor foreigners, migrants, refugees, and they don't want to do anything with them. And this means that they have common interests and common tactics. And Orban was the first who recognized it. He has the best public relations campaign, and they all recognized it. However, there are grave differences between Hungary and Poland, Hungary and Slovakia. You have to tell me that if I speak. But I think my wife will raise her little finger, and then I know. So I don't go now in the intricacies of the relationships, and this is actually in very close connection with also with this country. In 1956 there was a revolution in Hungary, and the communist regime collapsed. This was the only country where the communist regime was reconstructed and rebuilt. And now one forgets that in 1956-57, 180,000 Hungarians fled to Vienna and Austria, about 15,000 to Yugoslavia. In all, almost 200,000. Most of them, within 10 months, were received by various countries, United States, UK, Switzerland, Germany, because the West had a bad conscience. And only the ill people, the old people, the decrepit people, and some intellectuals like me remained here and became then Austrian citizens, not only through their passport, but through their feelings of gratitude that in this country they could start a new life. And this is somehow a very important thing to know, that Austria is also a neighbor of Hungary, and the same is true also of Serbia and the countries of the former Yugoslavia. And in most of these countries east of Austria, there is a tendency of the strongman's appeal. Goes back to the 30s, when people thought you need a strong man at the top. And this is what very much a shadow over Central Europe, and unfortunately even in some Western European countries. And this is a very great danger, the authoritarian temptations. It is much simpler if you have control over the media, if you have a supreme prosecutor who is elected for 8 years, whose wife is involved in a great conglomerate founded by the governor of the National Bank, where everybody is somehow related to the others as far as money is concerned. Unfortunately, Hungary has become one of the most corrupt countries. Poland is 4 times bigger, is also on the road to authoritarian system, but in Poland still only 27th on the corruption list, collected, compiled, and published by the Transparency International. Hungary is unfortunately 57th, and there are good prospects that it will go even more downwards. So there are a lot of stories, a lot of interesting, not always very uplifting events, but very interesting also for other countries, even for the United States, how one starts on a slippery slope and where one ends. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. And we now welcome questions from the audience. Yes.